Today we are going to discuss on Web API, how to create a Web API using ASP.NET technology. So if you'll go to the definition, Web API is a framework for building HTTP services that can be accessed from any client, including browsers like Chrome browser, Internet Explorer, and any other browsers. Then mobile applications, then IoT, Internet of Things. You can get it from Google, what is Internet of Things. And then it is an ideal platform for building a RESTful services or RESTful application on the .NET framework. Okay, what is REST? RESTful. Why we are going for RESTful service? So REST is representational state transfer. Representational state transfer means when a REST API is called, the server will transfer a representation of the requested resource state to the client. I will give the example what is exactly a representational state transfer. Okay, when we are going here now, suppose we have a table in SQL Server. So I am giving a live example. I am showing one example how data from SQL Server table. This is a table called employee and it has two columns. So it is going to be shown in one Angular application to the user. Okay, so how it is going? The web API will connected to SQL Server. So it will retrieve data or fetch data from the SQL Server using ADO.NET or Entity Framework technology to retrieve data from SQL Server. Then it will convert this table data to a REST format, that is JSON format. Okay, so see this format, this SQL Server table is converted to a JSON object or JSON data by Web API. Then this JSON data is used by the Angular application to show to the user. So this is a state, representational state, means it is representing this JSON object is representing this SQL Server table to the Angular application. That's why it is called REST or representational state transfer. So this state is transferred to here. Okay, that is the concept. So we can transfer the state either through JSON or XML or HTML. So this is example of JSON. Okay, so state transferred through JSON format. Then same table can be transferred through XML format. This is XML format. So either JSON or XML, any format we can transfer the state, but JSON is better than XML because it is lightweight. See, it is containing less character than the XML format. Okay, even in HTML format also we can transfer the state. And if you'll see here, this is a database and the REST API or Web API, ASP.NET Web API or REST, anything you can say. We can transmit data from client to database through the REST API. Get means we can get data from the SQL Server. Okay, this is an example of get. Okay, we are getting data from to the client from the SQL Server. Similarly, post, we can send some form value to the database also through Web API. And also put means we can modify the table row, and delete means we can delete the row. Okay, data can be transferred either to JSON or XML. Okay, so then next we are going to develop one example using ASP.NET. One example of Web API using ASP.NET, and then we will consume that Web API data or JSON data from Angular. Now we are going to create a new project using Visual Studio 2019 ASP.NET Web Application. Okay, then next I will write like a fast web API. Okay, all other things are okay, so I will put this in a particular directory. I know E drive, then YT Angular, select, create, then I will go for web API. Okay, we have a web API. By default it is taking MVC because web API will use the MVC architecture. Okay, not HTTPS. I'm removing this. So whenever we are selecting web API, we will get MVC also ticked because web API will use MVC architecture. Then go to create. Now we got the application created, MVC web API application. Close this one. View Solution Explorer. We are getting that this is the web API application created by Visual Studio. So they are creating one default application. So you have seen that MVC is MVC application template is ticked along with the web API because it is using controller, model, everything like MVC. Okay, so they are also by default given one controller, okay, or API. So we see here. Okay, so now what we'll do, I will tell you how to create one web API using this. I am going to add a web API controller. So I am right clicking here on the controller folder. I am right clicking, then add web API controller. Okay, so I will just give it the name as suppose web API controller. So controller should be there in front of that controller or controller one, but for now I am writing controller. So controller should be there, otherwise it will not be recognized. Just like MVC, so controller is the suffix. So it will become values controller. So I added it. Now I have values controller. So by default they have given get, post, put, delete. One example they have given. So now I will run this example. So when I will run this web API, at that time I will do one thing. I will use this. So it is indicating that they have given that which what to write in the URL so that it will be accessed. So API/controller. Okay, for getting this value. So it is they are returning a array of string, that is a value and value 1, value 2 array of string. So this is in JSON format here, and I will run this. Okay, so they are saying that I have to add API/controller. So here API/controller name is values. So I added this. So now I am accessing this is the web URL or API URL of the API. Okay, just like we are using in the previous example how to get the name in the countries. Okay, similarly we have our own API here, and the data transfer or REST is in XML format. The state is represented in XML format here, but we want it in JSON format. Then how to do it? To show the data in JSON format, we have to go to the global.asx file, and global.asx file inside the application start we have to add this line. And what is that line? That line is saying that global configuration.configuration.formatter. Okay, .xl formatter .support media clear means or clear the XML formatter. If you clear the XML formatter using this line, then by default JSON format will go there. So I will run this and I will see the JSON format instead of XML format. So I will type the same thing here, API/values. So I am getting value in JSON format, see here. Okay, then we will go and see some other things. So it is a enumerable of strings. So suppose I will make it only string. Okay, I will make it only string. Then I have to return. Suppose I will return here a string. So I am writing here hello world. Save it, then run. I'll write here API/values. So I am getting hello world. So now I have given the example of returning array of string and a single string. So, but this is actually in your real world project. We are not going to return some hard-coded value like string or something. So this part will be connecting, this area will be connecting to the database using ADO.NET or entity framework. Then the data inside the table will be returned instead of hello world. We will go to that part in the next chapter. Similarly, we can get a string ID. So I will give you example of all the get, post, put in the next chapter by creating a table in SQL Server and then editing the data inside the SQL Server, then getting data from the SQL Server. All this verb will be used. These are called verbs. Get, post, put, delete. These are the verbs of Web API.